but it's actually an illogical argument to make, to say, even if Donald Trump had some certain intent in his head, that would not mean that the people who were showing up for the protest had that intent. So the thing is like, for you, both ways, it's a double entendre for your own logic. Either one, you claim, wait a second, there's one clear reason everybody showed up, or two, no, there was no clear reason why everybody showed up. They had multiple motivations, even if Trump himself had a different motivation. This is illogical argumentation.
I'm sorry, but this would never be applied to anything. If somebody says, hey, guys, we're all going to show up.
That's not an argument either.
Go and I'm making the argument right now. If somebody were to make the call and say, hey, guys, we're all going to show up to go and blow this building up, and a bunch of people showed up, and then a bunch of them marched for the crowd, and then they all went, and a building got blown up, we wouldn't say like, oh, well, we don't know what the intention of the crowd was. We don't know what the intention of the leader there was. We don't know what actually happened there, because we can't divine the intention of every single individual person.
That's a ridiculous straw man.
We can say that's, you can call it a straw man, but the idea that in order for me, okay, hold on. What would I need?
So hang on, let me respond to your first argument, and then you can wait. No, there's no spurging. Let me respond to the argument, and then you can ask.
You're not even letting me talk. You can respond to my argument.
You made an argument. Let me respond, and then you can ask the second argument. I think that that's fair. So when you're talking about this from a logical standpoint, when you say, oh, if somebody called and said, hey, we're all going to blow this building up, yes, I would agree that you could probably ascribe the motivation to it then. Can you show me a tweet or any type of anything from Donald Trump saying, hey, guys, show up, we're going to do an insurrection? No, you just made the shit up.
I can. Okay, fine. So I can. So as part of Donald Trump's speech, I'll give you two quotes. Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore. And that's what this is all about. And to use a favorite term that all you people really came up with, we will stop the steal. Today, I will lay out just some of the evidence proving that we won this election. We won it by a landslide. This was not a close election. The first quote. The second quote, we must stop the steal. And then we must ensure that such outrageous election fraud never happens again, can never be allowed to happen again. When he says stop the steal, when they're at the Capitol building on January 6th, and when the election is being certified, what does stop the steal mean there?
Wait a second. So first of all, you're attributing to Donald Trump's rhetoric here something which he may not have intended. None of that actually shows or demonstrates that he was calling for an insurrection on the Capitol. You are just kind of ascribing that motivation onto it for the purposes of convenience. You have to show me there where he calls, like your example was, if I say we're all going to show up and blow up this building, that was your example, and then people show up and do it, we can understand their motivation. I agree. You have to show me where he says, okay, guys, we're all going to show up and do an insurrection. You can't then take words that don't say anything about an insurrection and say, but I think he meant that, though.
So then just before I answer this, what would I have to show you to show that an insurrection was what Trump was planning?
You would have to give me the criteria first and foremost of something which fit the criteria of an insurrection better than some other thing. And you would have to make it refutable to that thing from what people were charged under. So if the criteria is, I'm going to give you what I think an insurrection is, and it fits a different criteria better than an insurrection, and under that criteria, that's what people were basically charged under, then it sounds like the other thing makes more sense than an insurrection. That totally seems to track to me.
X event to have happened, like some person needs to have been charged with the crime?
No, your logic there is faulty as well.
Then why do you have the second element
respond.
there for me
Let me respond.
Well, hold on. You can't just talk for 20 minutes and then as soon as I say one sentence,
you can't ask me a question and then move to another question.
I can ask you a question and then ask another question as part of my question.
Yeah, but I wasn't even able to respond.
You gave two elements to what I needed to prove. The second one was that I have to show why people weren't charged with a crime. I've answered this thing 50 million times. We can center on just as one point if you want. Just because somebody hasn't been charged with the crime of X doesn't mean that an event related to X didn't occur. This is
but the opposite would equally be true. The opposite is also true. Just because they weren't charged with the crime of X doesn't mean they committed the crime of X either, Destiny.
I'm not making that argument. You're using this argument as a way to negate my argument.
Yes.
Just because I'm
it's
not
called a counter argument. Yes.
No, hold on. That would be like you saying John couldn't have murdered Jane because John wasn't there. And then I say, well, no, that's not true. And then you going, well, just because John was there doesn't mean that he murdered Jane.
Nope, the opposite.
That's not the element that I'm
the opposite is true.
I've given you four clear things.
Wait. No, wait. Hang on. The opposite is true.
An argument that, or give me a definition of insurrection.
Stop. Hang on. The opposite is true. I'm not saying that. So you say, oh, John murdered Jane, but that can't be true because he also may not have murdered Jane. You're making the claim John murdered Jane. And so I say, okay, that's your claim that he murdered Jane. Can you define for me what the criteria would be in which you would consider this to be murder? And you go, well, and then you define for me something that is not murder or fits some other criteria better. Would not a rational human being, including you, take that and understand, wait, if it fits this other criteria better, it probably isn't actually murder?
What part of my... Can you give me an example? I'm just curious, and I shouldn't even engage with this because so just up to this point, you've given me no definition of insurrection. You seem unwilling to.
It's not my burden.
Definition. Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just saying you've given me
no.
I'm not going to.
I'm giving you nothing. It's not my burden of proof.
My question would be: can you give me?
It's not my burden.
Riot? Can you give me a riot that would fit all 4 points that I've given?
It's not my burden to do.
Define it insurrection. Well, then you must accept my definition.
I don't need to accept. Why would I need to accept your definition?
Because you're saying that my definition of insurrection isn't valid because it also applies to riots. And I'm telling you very clearly, no, it doesn't, because riots don't typically happen in a planned manner to contravene the execution of some government function or the implementation of some particular law.
That's not what your definition says. Your definition says under point 2, resisting any law.
Some law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding.
Yeah, so you're just changing your definition.
I'm not resisting. Do you think that resisting a law is the same thing as breaking a law?
I think that it could be synonymous inside of people's minds, but no, I could see the distinction with merit. But when you say resisting any law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding, that sure sounds like a fucking riot to me, Destiny.
Okay, can you give me an example of a riot where that happens?
Where BLM burned down a police station. That seems like it's resisting the law.
So that's... What law were they resisting the implementation of?
The law of arson, the law of rioting, all sorts of laws.
So you're telling me that those riots were trying to make it so that arson was legal? Can you point me to a tweet? Can you point me to a statement where somebody was saying we're rioting because we think that the laws against arson
wait a second.
are illegal?
Can you show me in your definition where it says that the purpose of the insurrection is so that they can make something else legal? Because that's nowhere in your definition, Destiny.
Resisting any law or interfering with the course of a government
doesn't say anything about making something else legal. You just made it up.
No, you're saying that they're resisting the law of arson. Nobody's arguing that the law of arson is bad just because you're breaking a law.
What's the or? What's the or? What's the or?
The or for what?
It says or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. Would you not consider if somebody interfered with the FBI, for instance, for that to be interfering with the course of a government proceeding? Or if somebody interfered with police officers, that would be interfering with the course of a government proceeding?
Police officers are not federal police officers.
They don't, but federal's not required.
If you want to talk about, where you are, because we're talking about
January 6th. It's not. We have your definition. It's not required.
Where did January 6th happen?
But it does. We have your definition.
Why would I be arguing about the definition of an insurrection in a state when we're talking about an insurrection that happened?
Well, then can you show me in your definition where it says it must be federal for an insurrection to occur?
We're talking about.
Well, then if it doesn't, it doesn't matter. So then any of the criteria which would apply at the state level would still apply at the federal level for rioting. It's the same thing.
I don't know if insurrections are state defined. I'm not aware of that in the historical record.
Well, you can't have a state insurrection. Why couldn't you?
I'm not aware of some. Can you show me where in the historical record?
I'm just asking why you couldn't have one.
Because I'm not aware of any having occurred.
That doesn't mean you couldn't have one.
You just claimed that it's possible.
I didn't make a claim.
Oh, okay. Then no one is claiming here that an insurrection.
No, you are making a claim. You're making a claim on your 4 points.
I'm making a positive claim that there could be a federal insurrection because I have a historical record of there being statements about insurrections federally and historically. I've never had a statement about a state insurrection. I'm not aware of any of those.
Yeah, but you not being aware of any doesn't mean that the criteria could not apply to a state insurrection, correct?
That's correct, but we're talking about an insurrection that happened on federal grounds. So
I agree, but your definition doesn't require federal anything. That's not what your definition requires.
I think if the only holdout you have is that your definition of resisting a particular law just means that you are breaking a law, then I think I'm satisfied.
No, it's not. Or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. This could be localized or non-localized.
It can't be. No one here is
it can be
about a non-federal insurrection. Okay, well, if those are your two holdouts.
Well, okay, well, what does or interfering with the course of a government proceeding mean? What does that mean?
The record that I'm invoking, we're especially talking about things relating to insurrection, and we're talking about the invocation of insurrection, which is my understanding has only ever happened in federal law and in stuff relating to the United States government, not a state government. If you want to show me it happening or show me a historical record or a state constitution or a state criminal statute that references insurrection, then we can talk about that if you want to.
What does or interfering with the course of a government proceeding mean, Destiny?
Or interfering with the course of the implementation or the execution of some particular federal law.
It has to be federal?
Yes, because we're talking about the federal government.
No, that doesn't mean it. Hang on. So
Yeah.
you're doing a classic kind of Destiny bait and switch where you say in this particular case it would because that's what we're talking about. Okay, that's fair, but that doesn't mean that that's what the definition says. The definition itself does not say that it must be federal. It doesn't say
you even
that.
agree with
Hang
my-
on.
what definition
It
are you
doesn't
referring to
say
here?
that anywhere. What does or interfering with the course of a government proceeding
That is 10
mean?
minutes.
What does it mean?
That real quick, guys. That is 10 minutes. What I could do is, because I see that there's a discussion here between federal, if an insurrection can be federal or state, I will go ahead and reset the clock. I think maybe this is something that we can kind of hone in on. Can an insurrection be, obviously we're talking about it from federal level, but can also be at a state level. Do you guys want to shift that conversation to there and make this round specifically for that? Are you guys okay with that?
I don't know. A state insurrection. I'm just not even aware of that even being a thing. I don't think I've
Well,
ever
I don't
heard
know,
of that.
Destiny. Were the DC cops local?
I'll put the clock for
The
5.
DC cops were federal.
No, all of them were federal, eh?
The District of Columbia is federal.
So they have
Yes, it's federal.
no state police there at all?
What state police would they have there?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
I don't believe so. No, I'm pretty
Okay.
sure even the National Guard there directly, like the chain of command goes up to the president. Not
Do
a state
states
governor.
have state governments?
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't understand why you couldn't have an insurrection against a state government by this
You
definition.
should consult the historical record and come with an example.
Well,
next
just
time.
because you never have one, I'm asking you if you can.
I'm not here to debate whether or not you can have an insurrection against a state government.
Well,
I'm here to
I don't
debate whether or not
understand then
January 6th
if
was
your
an insurrection
definition doesn't include
because
federal.
January 6th. No, this is like asking if a murder occurred on January 6th. In that case, I would only be talking about murder as it's defined in federal law, not in state law. We're talking about an insurrection on whether or not January 6th was an insurrection or not. So I'm
Yeah.
only going to be appealing to federal law or federal historical
Yes, but
understandings of an
wait,
insurrection against
but-
the United States. So I don't know why we're saying, well, what about a state insurrection?
Because-
I don't know. I'm
well,
not even aware of a state insurrection.
because
It's
this is a
possible thing. I've never heard of that
semantic-
reference before.
this is a
It's not
semantic
semantic. It's
distinction.
legal and it's historical, and that's where the
No, I'm
understanding is
fine
rooted.
with a semantic distinction. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm actually just trying to make one. So you agree that you gave me a definition that it nowhere includes the word federal, correct?
I also didn't give you a definition that includes the word human or that includes the words like in this present point of time and not like in the future or time traveling in the past, or that doesn't include like dimension C138, or that like there's a million
So
other
what?
things that I didn't include.
Yeah, I don't know what
Because-
that has to do with anything.
Because why would I include the definition of against the United States when we're talking about an insurrection that happened on federal grounds?
Because your
If you want,
definition of an insurrection
I could
matters.
simply add. Okay, well in that case, I will simply add on my.
Aren't
second
you
part,
appealing to a state court, for instance? Like, what are you talking about here?
appealing to a state court for what?
Aren't you appealing to a state court for this definition? Isn't that what you said? Did I get that wrong?
I'm appealing to right now. I'm appealing to federal history. What are you talking about?
Well, I'm asking, where did you get this definition? Let's start with that.
There's a writer who studied I think it was constitutional law specializing in the 14th Amendment. His name is Mark Graber, and these are the 4 qualifications that he basically lists out, and then he goes through a number of historical examples to say as much. There's also a much longer paper written about the I think it's like the sweeping power of Section 3, written by I think Baud and Paulson, who write like a 130-page paper where they go through listing like the historical understanding of insurrection. If you want, we can dive through any part of the paper. or
Does
we can dive through
he
any part of the
say
definition,
in
or-
this paper that it's a requirement that this be done at the federal level?
I don't think anybody talks about state insurrections. I don't think you can levy war or engage in insurrection against a state. I'm just not aware of that. I've never heard of that brought up before.
Yeah, but I'm
Like,
just
I don't think,
just
like,
asking.
for instance, like when you say treason, if I were to give you a definition of treason, I don't know if you can commit treason against like the state of Iowa. I think that's only a federal crime.
I have no idea either. This is why I'm asking.
I can't say I can't say for sure because maybe there is evidence of it out there, but
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
don't
come
know.
prepared to debate that because it's a debate about federal.
Well, all I'm
insurrection
doing
on
is
January
doing an
6th.
internal critique to try to figure out if this is consistent across the board, your definition. I'm not even saying that there's necessarily anything wrong with it, but what I am saying is that there's something wrong with the fact that it seems to fit rioting far better than it would in insurrection. So if we go over these one at a time, an assemblage would fit a riot. That's what Destiny says. By force or intimidation fits a riot. That's what Destiny says. for
it's
hang on, for public purposes. That's what
an assemblage of people for a common purpose.
Yeah.
Okay. An assemblage of people. Yes.
Riot.
So they've come for a common purpose. Okay. And then
Okay.
2 is to resist any law or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. Right.
And-
resisting
or
a law.
resist, yeah.
Resisting a law. That's not just breaking a law, but you're there to resist a particular law. There's one you really don't like. And then 3, you're showing up.
Yeah, but wait,
force
we
or
have the or
intimidation.
there. We have the or interfering with the course of a government proceeding. Wouldn't that be even resisting police? Wouldn't that qualify for that?
No, a government proceeding would be like the Senate confirming like an officer of the executive agency.
You would have
like
to
a confirmation of
demonstrate that. I
respect.
don't believe that that's true. I think that you can interfere with government proceedings, even absent there being some actual proceeding that you're interfering with. I think that
Well,
this
if
could
you
be
would like
done with
to
just
introduce-
localized laws.
That's fine. And if you would like to introduce your own unique definition of insurrection,
Why
you
would
can
I need to do
but
that? We have
because
yours.
I'm unaware in the historical record of anybody suggesting that interfering with police officers is a matter of insurrection or can lead to an element of insurrection.
Are there
I'm just
laws
not aware
against
of it.
rioting?
I don't know if I'm not sure. I know there's laws against like things that happen in rioting. I don't know
Yeah.
if there's like a law of rioting.
Are you resisting those laws when you're rioting?
No.
You're not resisting those laws when you're rioting.
No, unless you're literally
No.
rioting to say we should make rioting legal or we need to get rid of the prohibition on rioting.
Wait, why would that be a qualification to resist the laws, Destiny?
Because breaking the law and do you acknowledge that breaking the law and resisting the law are not
Well,
the
tell me
same
what the
thing?
distinction is so I'm not confused anymore.
Breaking a law is when you do something that's illegal, and resisting the law is saying that this particular law shouldn't exist.
Yeah, okay, but if you're rioting, how do you go about resisting a law?
Well, you could riot for the purpose of overturning a particular law. You
yeah,
might
but
say,
you're
I don't like
resisting
the-"
other laws then, right?
No, you're not. You're not saying that rioting should be made legal.
Yeah, but even if you weren't, you would still be resisting laws that were on the books against rioting.
So if I can't divorce, okay, we can just disagree here. If you think that resisting and breaking the law are the same thing, we're. At an
I didn't
impasse.
say
We
that
can't
they're
go
the
there.
same thing. I said that necessarily, if you're rioting to resist some other external law. So let's say I think that there's some.
Hold on. Do you agree?
I think
we can do this
let's
really
say-
easy. Do you
hang
agree
on,
that you can
bro.
engage in rioting? No. Do you agree that you can engage in rioting and accept that you might get arrested for rioting?
Yeah.
Then that defeats your entire argument. You
How?
can engage in rioting without resisting the law of rioting.
Yeah,
Understanding that,
but
well, I'm gonna riot,
actually,
but I might be
that
arrested
makes
for
my
it.
argument. That makes my argument. So the thing is that even if I concede that it's true, that you could be, rioting with the expectation that you get arrested for this X thing, right? You could do this for murder as well. You could do this for basically anything. You can commit any crime with the expectation that you could be arrested for the crime itself. But that would not say that you're not resisting whatever the current laws were that were on the books about that crime. You're saying that the necessity here is that you are resisting some other thing. Fine, but you're also resisting laws by the very nature of rioting. So I don't know why you would have to have something which is externalized while you yourself are still breaking laws. I don't think.
How are you resisting the law? How are you resisting laws of rioting by rioting?
Well, because
What does resist mean to you?
so
How are you
assuming-
defining resist?
Yeah. So assuming I can give you an example of this. Let us assume for a second that people are rioting in an abortion clinic because they want abortion overturned. I think this is the spirit of your argument, right? So
Yeah.
they're rioting in an abortion clinic. They want abortion to be overturned. You would agree with me then that they are pushing against abortion, but they're still breaking laws while they're rioting, right? So they are resisting current laws, even though they're resisting another current law. And I don't think that you would consider that to be an insurrection, even though it could fit all of the criteria of these elements. It's an assemblage, for sure. You're resisting some other law that you don't like, or you're interfering with the course of a government proceeding. You would say that that fits criteria too. You would say that this is by force or intimidation, and you would say it's for a public purpose. But that clearly is not an insurrection, Destiny.
The issue is that like abortion is not like this isn't a federal law. I could just grant you that we can move to the state example since you seem unable or unwilling to.
Let's assume
differentiate
for a
between
second
state
that
or
it
federal
was.
law.
Let's assume for a second it was a federal law.
Okay, you know what? Actually, we can do that.
Yeah.
Let's say that the federal government has to law either allowing or not allowing all abortion. Okay, the government either allows it, everybody can have an abortion whenever they want, or nobody can have an abortion. Okay,
Yeah.
let's say that I gather a group of people and I say, listen, okay, fuck this abortion law. We're all going to get together and we're going to go protest. Okay, and we're protesting. The goal of our protest, all right, is we want to get rid of the abortion thing, whether it was passed or made illegal. Okay, we want to get rid of this law, and we're going to show up. with a whole bunch of fucking people, and shit's gonna get ratty, and we're gonna, we know what we're doing. Okay, it's the day that in Capitol Hill that they're gonna sign the law into whatever. We march down there, and in the course of protesting, like it becomes a riot, and the riot and everything there was because of that particular law being signed into practice. I would say, yeah, that was an insurrection. You've shown up with a group of people, you're resisting the passage of some particular law, you're showing up through force or intimidation, and you end up exercising that, and then it's for the public purpose of a particular law that impacts everybody in the United States. I would say that is an insurrection. Yes.
So
would you say
if
it's not?
so, if a bunch
Would you
of
say
people,
that that's not an insurrection?
yeah, I would say that it would not be an insurrection, at least by this criteria. That would just seem to me again to be a riot. That would seem to fit the criteria again of a riot better than an insurrection. I still can't exactly figure out the delineation point, and I'm trying to. And now, to be fair to you, it is nebulous. I understand it's nebulous, but I'm also not the one who's making the affirmative claim. You are. So you're saying that if a bunch of fucking dope smoking hippies wanted to resist the federal law of being able to smoke marijuana on federal land, and they all showed up and they got stoned, and then they started rioting, that would be a fucking insurrection?
If they went there with a common purpose, they were trying to resist the implementation or execution of a particular law. Yeah, theoretically.
Well, no, they're just resisting, right? They're just resisting a law. They're saying, we're here to protest the fact, man, that we can't smoke weed on federal property, man. So they all grab their blunts and they start toking up in protest, right? Exactly. And then they start a fire
what do you
and
have?
kick some stuff.
Okay,
and kick some stuff. Hang on, I just want to make sure. You think that
yes.
would be an insurrection?
The historical record, it could be yes. Do you have any definition of insurrection whatsoever?
Don't need to give you a counter definition.
If you're not going to give me a counter definition, I can give you the riot definition doesn't include necessarily a public purpose. I've already given examples of riots that wouldn't fit my definition of insurrection, and I really only need to give one, and I automatically win. A riot could very much be in response to a particular sports team winning a game. Boom. That's an example of a riot. It doesn't fit my definition of an insurrection. I've differentiated the two, and unless you're going to give me any countervailing definitions, I automatically satisfy that.
Yeah, but I already did. Or interfering with the course of a government proceeding in and of itself. I think that the necessity of rioting in and of itself. What if you blockade a federal highway?
Wait, the necessity of rioting in and of itself. Wait, what?
I think, yeah.
No, hold on, wait,
I think
wait.
that rioting itself, you're breaking crimes by rioting.
Do you acknowledge that I just gave you an example of a riot that wouldn't be an insurrection under my definition?
So I think that would even be appropriate. I think that you could give me tons of definitions of riots that would not fit this definition of an insurrection, but that would not mean that this definition doesn't fit the definition of riot better than insurrection. You understand?
Wait, so if somebody was protesting and it got really violent after a sports game, how would my definition fit that better than insurrection?
What if they were blockading a federal highway? Would that be interfering with the course of government proceedings because there's a federal law that says you can't blockade byways on federal highways? I mean, this is the thing: is that
I don't know. I don't think that counts as a proceeding.
Do you see what I mean? Though this becomes so broad that we can begin to just add all sorts of things and call them insurrections.
What is the government proceeding?
Let me give you an example. So if we're going to be totally good faith here, right, which I've been trying to be this entire debate, and I think you would concede that, if we're going to be really good faith here, do you really believe that if a bunch of hippies showed up to smoke a bunch of dope on federal property, okay, and a few of them got wild and started a fire and kicked some shit, right, and fucking, I don't know, somebody got beat up with a bat because there was tens of thousands of them who showed up for that protest, do you really believe that that would fit the criteria of what most people think of, including you, as an insurrection?
If they didn't go there united by like a particular public purpose,
the public purpose was they were going against this federal law. They don't want the federal law. They're resisting that federal law.
So that we don't have to waste more time on this. If you want to stack this enough, all I'm going to end up doing is saying that, like, yes, this would agree as I would agree that this would be an insurrection. You're not able to demonstrate. This is why I'm asking you, like, historically, can you give me an example of an event that you don't think I would want to classify as an insurrection?
I don't think I need to, because I think
as an insurrection.
So
if you're just going to give me examples,
don't need to. Well, here I'm going to give you the ultimate example right now.
So, like, yeah, I would say that was an
Nobody in good faith anywhere is going to agree with you that if a bunch of hippies showed up to resist the marijuana law on federal property and then a few of them started a riot, that they would consider that insurrection against the United States. I don't believe you believe it. I don't believe your audience believes it. I don't believe anybody believes it. So if that is the case, that it's so broad that will encapsulate that, I'm actually fine leaving the debate there too.